Hi, I'm Ann Coulter. Welcome to my Substack. I'm interviewing the totally cool cat, Michael Shellenberger. Tonight, I ran into you, Michael, at a Christmas party. Didn't recognize you because you didn't have the beard, and I had no idea you knew Heather, but of course, you'd be at the coolest Christmas party all year. I was just reading up on you. I started following you on Twitter. We became Twitter friends. Then you ran for governor, and then you got the Twitter files. Oh, and the San Francisco book. San Francisco, which I looked up. I had 20 pages of notes on that book. It was so great. But I didn't
What?
know about this environmental stuff you had done for years. So I wanted to start with some of that, get to San Francisco, and then talk about your being the first endowed professor at University of Austin.
Well,
Welcome,
all right.
Michael.
Thank you, Anne. Well, it's really a pleasure to meet you. You're so iconic, and it's exciting to have this conversation. I've been thinking about you because of it just seems like a lot of the ideas that you've been advocating for are now being implemented, and so hopefully I'll get some chance at the end to ask you some questions. Would that be okay?
I love that idea. It's very hard to restrain me, even when I'm interviewing other people like you, totally cool cat. Among the environmental stuff, the two greatest things I read about you is you're given credit for keeping open the Diablo Canyon nuclear generating plant, now the only biggest power plant in California and the only nuclear plant. Wow, congratulations on that.
Thank you. It was really hard work. It was very hard work, as you can imagine. And obviously, there were other factors. I mean, the fact that the grid was having blackouts helped. But as you know, there's a very large, Californians have a very large capacity for irrationality and self-destructive behaviors, as the recent fires show in LA. I mean, they're going to burn the whole state down, basically. But yes, thank you. I think we were able to kind of help people to see that nuclear power is good, not bad.
Yeah, well, that was one of the things I liked the most about, I mean, very early on in your environmental work. I can't take any environmentalist seriously who doesn't advocate for nuclear power. And right from the beginning, you were there.
Well, I changed my mind. I mean, I was, like a lot of folks, that came of age in the 80s, I was bombarded with a lot of terrifying anti-nuclear propaganda. We had ICBMs near my hometown, but, when I was 12 is when ABC, with like, I think the cooperation of the government, I don't know if it was Reagan, but they basically encouraged parents to watch this television made-for-TV movie called The Day After about the traumatizing aftermath. It's a post-apocalyptic film. It's just as terrifying as it sounds,
Mhm.
showing kids being eviscerated. So I had quite a bit of, and was very much on the radical left, and so I certainly had a lot to get over to accept nuclear as a good thing rather than a bad thing. And then from there, you kind of go, wow, I wonder what else the left might have lied about.
Yes, yes. I had a lot of
And you can
friends
pull
go,
that thread. You pull that thread.
yeah, I had a lot of friends go through that with, well, years ago, 9/11, and then most recently with COVID.
A lot
My
of COVID pilling.
Yeah, some of my very liberal, I was kind of surprised. They said, okay, now I know global warming is false because they're doing the exact same thing, bringing out all the experts. You're not allowed to disagree. They censor anyone who disagrees. Now, I don't need to see anything else. Global warming is false because of how they treated COVID.
That's amazing. That's awesome. That reminds me of, I don't know if you saw the viral clip of Bill Murray saying that when he saw, but when he read Bob Woodward's book about John Belushi, he goes, God damn it, they framed Nixon. Because the depiction of John Belushi, he said, was so inaccurate. But yeah, there's a sense of which that is the thing. You kind of go, well, I mean, this is how trust works, right? I mean, I was telling my students, I was like, the problem that the mainstream media got into is that they were getting these short-term benefits of telling their audience what they wanted to hear. Biden's fine. There's no open border, and if there is, it's good. Um, men have no more physical ability than women in sports. Why would you think otherwise? And after, I think it was really finally the last straw was just when the media themselves said, "Oh, now Biden has to go." I have some close friends or relatives who told me that, yeah, I mean, they basically, after they realized that they were not getting the full picture and now start to take the red pill train. We'll see how far the left goes, but obviously it's just your ideas have become hegemonic. They've had a big impact on me. I mean, I did a interview just this morning with Orrin Cass, and
Mhm.
I just think the case for economic nationalism is clearer and stronger than ever. And I think it seems, even though the mainstream news media like they can't even accurately describe the case. They can't even, that means they can't debunk it because they're not even able to make the case. It's just
Yes.
Orange Man bad, post-war globalization era good. Anybody that says otherwise is just crazy and irrational. But I do think you look at someone like Orrin Cass goes on Jon Stewart, and you sort of get these ideas that had been shoved into the corner with the far right, and all of what that meant now becoming, I think, much more mainstream, even if not in the mainstream news media.
No, I think that very left-wing media is actually doing a disservice to liberals because I think any conservative, I think a sixth grader conservative could accurately describe what the liberal position is on most issues. And you're totally right. I don't think liberals could even give our position, which is why they have to constantly call us white supremacists.
Right,
That's the end of it. It
right,
wasn't only, Biden's senility. You just remind me, another big red pill, which really impressed me, was the J.D. Vance Tim Walz debate. And I do have friends who told me they or their parents totally believed the media story about how Vance was a dork and he was so awkward and he was a loser. And
right.
oh, they kept calling him weird, weird, weird.
Yeah,
And Waltz, oh, he's full of life, it's joy, it's wonderful. And then they see
right.
that debate.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm curious, where do you, because of course you become famous both because you were sort of this huge influence on Donald Trump. You're sort of famous for, being an early Trump supporter because of him sharing your views of mass migration. And then you had this famous kind of falling out with him and been just this harsh critic sometimes on X. I've always been kind of like, wow. It was always like, wow, the right really throws down when they have a fight. I mean, I always thought the left was rough, but you guys play rough. Um, what is your relationship with the president, and what's your report card so far on how he's doing?
Well, complete love from my side.
Okay,
Uh, I'm ecstatic. I can't believe it. It's Christmas every day. This is the Trump I campaigned for and with. I wrote the book about this is what I wanted the first term. It's unbelievably great. And thank you, liberals, for spending 4 years persecuting him and
right,
prosecuting him. I don't know if you saw the headline earlier today. Well, this will post in a few days, but um, the reporting from the Washington Post is Trump just doesn't care.
wow,
That's the Trump I wanted. And he's just deporting them no matter what
right,
the court orders say, as he should be doing. And they had that headline about, oh, yeah, we accidentally deported that guy from Maryland. Oh, well.
right. They're not even there's like it's if anything, it's like the reverse relationship, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, there was a sense in that first term where Trump still had that sort of desire to be accepted by the mainstream, but
Yes.
always sort of had that weird sort of insecure, but kind of weird relationship with the New York Times, and then of course his cabinet was just a mess and all sorts of turnover, which of course contributed to the picture of chaos that I think people wanted to create. I mean, well, anyway, I have a lot of questions for you, but I mean,
Well,
it
one
seems
thing I
like
wanted to ask you before we move on too quickly from it, because I remember, I think it was the head of the Sierra Club at some point finally, cried uncle and said, we've got to have nuclear power if you care about the environment. So could you just explain that quickly for any of my viewers who are not familiar with how fantastic nuclear power is for the environment?
yeah. All right, so you want like kind of the Shellenberger thumbnail of how to think about nuclear in general? Okay.
Hmm.
All right. Well, so you may not know, I'm actually a heretic among heretics in the sense that I disagree with the conventional pro-nuclear position, both held by people on the left and the right.
Hmm.
The nuclear power, and we can talk about weapons too, because it's actually back on the agenda in a really big way. It's super
Hmm.
important. But in terms of power, we have this perfectly good technology. It's just we've had it since the 50s. It's these big plants. They use water as the coolant. They're fine. They're actually just better than ever. Operating them is the main event. The technological, the machines are fine, but it's really all about process and about workers and about about like protocols. And I mean, I had a friend that works at Diablo Canyon, and her job was to write the handbook of how to run the nuclear plant. And she was writing it. And I was like, "You mean they don't have one already?" And she was like, "No, we just constantly rewrite it so it's in the language of the moment and it's just reflect. And of course, it makes everybody sharper." So that's the nuclear we have, and it works great. There's this idea that we need to have this radically different nuclear technology. The plants have to be a lot smaller. Keep in mind, every time you have a smaller nuclear plant, it's more expensive. It's there, so there's a lot of wishful
Why
thinking
does it
in that
have to be
space.
smaller so it doesn't scare soccer moms?
Yes, it's a
I guessed
completely
it.
irrational reason. It's pure public relations. Now, you can sort of, people have this idea that you'll be able to mass assemble them, but you can already mass manufacture the main component parts of a nuclear power plant as is. There's just, the turbines and the reactor vessels and all these things could be produced. The cost would come down, my point is, with the more that you make them, because it's just machines and pipes
Right.
and so it's really all about the societal attitude towards it. There's some conservative libertarian opposition to the role of the state because the state is inherently heavily involved in nuclear because it is a dual use technology. But for the most part, that doesn't seem to be like a major obstacle, nor honestly does the environmental community appear to be any more of an obstacle. It's less that the environmental groups have changed their minds because they really haven't. It's
Hmm.
more that they have lost credibility and become less important. And so
Yes.
the conventional wisdom now on the left is basically that small advanced nuclear reactors that don't exist are need to be part of the solution. But we still don't have. I mean, look, there's a plant that was they started to build in South Carolina. They stopped building it. It's absurd. Like consistent with the Trump industrial policy, we should just build that. And you would
Yes.
basically pursue a Russian strategy of expanding nuclear and exporting a ton of your natural gas that we have in bulk, and of course bringing petrochemical industries here, and all the rest. So that's my basic picture of nuclear power, and you just need. It's not super complicated like financially or technologically. You just want to be as close as possible to doing the stuff that we have experience doing, because that's how you bring down the cost of construction and operate plants the safest way possible.